Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to make an authentic Italian pizza just like this one, and I'm going to share with you a few secrets on how to do that in terms of the type of flour to use, the hydration of the dough, and how you cook it in your conventional oven.
This recipe is tasty, crunchy, and above all easy. Allora oggi facciamo la pizza.
This is one of the keys to a really authentic Italian pizza. If you can find some flour that's tipo 00, that is definitely one of the best ones to use. You can, of course, use all-purpose flour. There's absolutely no problem with that. But if you really want that authentic Italian pizza taste and texture, try to get a tipo 00. A few different companies make it. It's really hard to find in my area. So I just got this one on Amazon for a few dollars for a 1 kilogram package. So these are all super simple ingredients to use. I've got 2 cups of flour here. We're going to use 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I have a cup of warm water, half a teaspoon of yeast, and a tablespoon of olive oil. So I'm just going to put in my flour. I'm going to add in my 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And what I want to do is mix that together first, because I don't want the yeast and the salt interacting, because the salt, if it comes in contact with the yeast directly, it will make it or deactivate it. So now I'm going to put in half a teaspoon of yeast, a tablespoon of olive oil, and the cup of water. And now I'm just going to use my hands and mix it up. This is how your dough should look. You just want to make sure that it's all pulled away from the sides and there's no flour remaining. It will feel very sticky, which you know you've got the texture just right. So what we want to do is just cover it up with either a plate or some saran wrap, and then we want to leave this for a minimum of 12 hours. 18 is good too, but 12 is the minimum, and then our pizza dough will be ready for the next step. So this has been resting for about 18 hours, and if I just take the cover off, you can see that it's gotten nice and puffy, and it's risen nicely, and it's even got a few little kind of pitted looking holes in the top, and that is just perfect. So now we're just going to turn this out and divide it into 2 round balls, and I'll show you what we do next. So I'm going to take a little bit of flour and dust the top of my cutting board. And I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on my hands to keep the dough from sticking. And I'm just going to take out the dough, and we're not really going to work it too much. We don't want to knock the air out of it. We're going to cut it in half. And if it's been sitting for about 18 hours, you'll notice that it starts to smell like a little bit fermented and kind of boozy, which is exactly what we want. That's fabulous. So now I'm just going to take this and form 2 little balls here, because that's going to be 2 pizzas. So now I'm going to do is take a tea towel, cover them up, and let them rest for 45 minutes to an hour. And after the dough rests for 45 minutes to an hour, we'll be ready to make pizza. So I'm just going to take a little bit of flour and flour up my hands and grab the dough. And it's good not to handle it too much. You can use a rolling pin if you want, but I prefer to just stretch it out with my hands like so. And like I said, this makes about a 10-inch pizza, and I don't really worry too much about the shape. So I'm just going to dust a bit of flour on my baking pan. And I just find that if I stretch it out with my hands, it tends to kind of, I guess, create those nice air bubbles in the dough. And like I said, I don't worry too much about the shape, because it's all going to be delicious and it's all going to get cut up anyway. So now I'm ready for my toppings. And I have some pizza sauce here that I'm going to put on the top. And I'm going to make a margarita pizza today. So I'm going to do mozzarella cheese, some fresh basil, and a little bit of pesto just dotted on the top. Now this second bit of dough here, if you're not going to use it right away to make another pizza, you can just wrap it up in some saran wrap and it'll keep in the fridge for a few days, and of course you could put it in the freezer. So this is ready to go in the oven, and the other secret is we're going to bake this on the bottom rack of the oven. So you want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. We're going to cook it on the bottom rack for 12 to 15 minutes or until it's done.
So here's how our pizza turned out. It's got a beautiful, thin, crunchy crust. So I hope you'll give this a try, and we'll see you next time.